Can you feel it? That quiet ache in a room that seems perfectly calm? That invisible wall you sense in someone you desperately want to be close to? It's the echo of a heart that has learned somewhere along the way that love and pain are inseparable partners. This isn't about coldness, and it's certainly not about you not being enough. This is about the silent, desperate survival strategy of the avoidant woman. For so long, you've been told you're too independent, too distant, too hard to love. But what if I told you that your emotional guard isn't a fortress to keep people out, but a sacred sanctuary protecting a love so deep and so profound that the world has never been taught how to handle it? Today, we pull back the curtain. Today, we reveal the 7 secrets that her silence has been screaming all along, and in doing so, we unleash the power to finally set that magnificent heart free. Let's dive into the 5 core truths that unlock this mystery. First, her independence is not a rejection of you, but a survival mechanism forged in the fires of past disappointment. She learned that the only person she can truly rely on is herself. So she built a life so complete, so self-sufficient that the need for another became a vulnerability she could no longer afford. Second, her need for space is not a lack of love, but a physiological requirement to regulate her nervous system. Intimacy can feel like a tidal wave of overwhelm to a system wired for threat, and pulling back is literally her body's way of gasping for air to avoid drowning in the very connection she craves. Third, her criticism and focus on your flaws are often a projection of her own deep-seated fear of being not enough. By finding the cracks in you, she subconsciously justifies her retreat, convincing herself that pulling away was the right choice all along, protecting her from the ultimate terror of being found inadequate and abandoned. Fourth, she is a master of secret tests, creating invisible hurdles you never knew existed. She's watching, not to trap you, but to see if your love is sturdy enough to withstand her storms, if you'll stay even when she makes it difficult, because that is the only love that feels real to her. And fifth, beneath that rock-solid exterior lies an ocean of empathy. She feels everything. She sees everything. And her withdrawal is often because she is absorbing the emotional energy of everyone around her, and the only way to survive the intensity is to retreat to the quiet solitude where she can finally hear her own soul again. Imagine a child, her heart wide open, reaching for a connection that is consistently inconsistent, a love that is conditional, or a presence that is physically or emotionally absent. The pain of that unmet need is so acute, so fundamental, that the young psyche makes a pivotal, life-altering decision. I cannot rely on anyone but myself. This is the genesis of the fortress. It is not built out of arrogance, but out of sheer survival. Every brick is laid with the mortar of disappointment, every tower raised with the steel of self-preservation. By the time she is an adult, this fortress is not just a habit, it is her identity. She is the capable one, the one who has her life together, the one who doesn't need anyone. And we, as a society, often applaud this. We call her strong, resilient, a girl boss. But what we are celebrating is the very structure that cages her. This independence is a magnificent prison. The tragedy is that the very mechanism designed to protect her from pain becomes the primary source of her profound loneliness. She is trapped inside the very walls she built, watching the world from a distance, yearning for connection but terrified to draw the bridge. Every time she accomplishes something completely on her own, a part of her whispers, "See, you don't need them." It's a hollow victory, a confirmation of her deepest unspoken fear that she is ultimately alone in this world. This isn't strength in its purest form. It is strength born from broken trust. It is a reactive strength, not a proactive one. True strength is the courage to be vulnerable, to interdepend, to trust. Her strength is the courage to go without. To break this pattern, we must stop seeing her independence as a challenge to be conquered or a flaw to be fixed. We must see it for what it is, a sacred, wounded child's brilliant solution to an old problem. The key is not to storm the fortress, but to gently, patiently, and consistently prove that you are not a threat to its occupant. It's about sitting outside the walls, not with tools to break them down, but with a constant, warm presence that whispers, "I am here when you are ready. Your safety is my priority." It requires a Herculean level of patience, because you are asking her to dismantle, brick by brick, the only home she has ever known, the only thing that has ever kept her safe. You are asking her to trade a known loneliness for an unknown and terrifying intimacy. This process is not about you convincing her, it's about you providing an environment of such unwavering safety and consistency that her own body and spirit begin to realize that the war is over, and that the fortress, her beloved protector, has finally become her prison. It is in that moment of realization, that breathtaking, terrifying moment of choice, that transformation begins. You reach out for a hug, you try to have a deep conversation, you simply want to be close, and you feel her pull away. The air grows cold, the energy retracts, and you are left standing there feeling rejected and confused. Your story becomes, she doesn't love me, she doesn't want me. But I need you to understand what is happening beneath the surface at a biological level is a completely different story. For the avoidant individual, intimacy and emotional vulnerability are not just feelings, they are neurological triggers that can launch a full-scale threat response in the autonomic nervous system. Her brain, wired by past experiences where connection was linked with pain, overwhelm, or enmeshment, perceives deep closeness as a potential danger. It's not a conscious thought, it's a primal physiological reaction. When the intimacy levels rise, her body goes into a state of hyperarousal. Think fight or flight. Her heart rate might increase. Her muscles tense, she may feel a sense of panic or the urgent need to escape. This is the overwhelming tide. It's not that she doesn't want the connection. It's that her entire system is screaming that she is drowning in it. Her need for space, therefore, is not an emotional rejection of you. It is a biological imperative for survival. It is her nervous system's way of gasping for air, of scrambling to the shore to regulate itself before it shuts down completely. When she says, I need some space, what she is really saying is, my system is in overload and I need to recalibrate so I don't disappear completely. Understanding this changes everything. It transforms her retreat from a personal affront into a necessary act of self-regulation. The path forward is not to chase her, not to demand reassurance in that moment, which will only be perceived as more threat, more drowning. The path is to become a student of her nervous system. It's to create what we call regulated space. This means you must become the calm, steady shore. Your energy must be so grounded, so non-threatening, that it signals safety to her activated system. It's about offering connection without demand, presence without pressure. It might mean saying, I'm here when you're ready, and genuinely meaning it without resentment. It's about allowing the tide to recede naturally, trusting that if you are a safe harbor, the boat will return to shore. This requires you to master your own anxiety, to not let your story of rejection trigger your own abandonment panic. When you can do that, when you can be the steady, predictable presence in the storm of her nervous system, you offer her the greatest gift, the experience that connection can be safe, that intimacy does not have to mean annihilation, and that love can exist without the accompanying terror of losing oneself. It can be one of the most painful and confusing aspects of loving an avoidant woman. Just as you feel you're getting closer, she suddenly becomes hypercritical. She points out a small flaw. She focuses on something you did wrong. She seems to be pushing you away by highlighting your imperfections. Your mind reels, after all I've done, this is what you see? I'm not good enough. But I want you to flip the script entirely. Her criticism is rarely, if ever, about you. It is a profound and cleverly constructed defense mechanism designed to protect the most vulnerable part of her, her core belief that she is fundamentally flawed and unworthy of love. This is a projection of breathtaking proportions. The critic living in her head, the one that constantly tells her she is too much or not enough, is temporarily turned outward onto you. By finding the cracks in your armor, she can subconsciously justify her emotional retreat. If you are the one who is flawed, then she is safe. Her withdrawal is not because of her inability to connect, but because of your inherent inadequacy. This protects her from the terrifying truth that the real reason she pulls away is her own deep-seated fear that if she lets you in, you will inevitably see the real her, the one she believes is broken, unlovable, and inadequate, and you will leave. It is far less painful to leave you first, for a reason she has manufactured than to risk the utter devastation of being left for who she truly is. Understanding this turns the dynamic from a personal attack into a tragic cry for healing. When she criticizes you, she is unknowingly showing you the exact blueprint of her own deepest wounds. She is saying, "This is what I believe about myself." If she criticizes your reliability, she feels unreliable at her core. If she attacks your emotional neediness, she is terrified of her own bottomless need. Your role in this dance is critical. The worst thing you can do is get defensive or try to argue the facts. That only confirms her narrative that you are the problem. The most powerful, transformative thing you can do is to see through the criticism to the wounded child behind it. Instead of reacting to the content, respond to the context. You can say something like, "It sounds like you're really hurt," or "I can hear how upset you are about this." This reframes the interaction from a battle of faults to an opportunity for connection. It demonstrates that you are not threatened by her dysregulation, that you can withstand her storms. It shows her that your love is not contingent on being perfect, and in doing so, it subtly begins to challenge her own belief that she must be perfect to be loved. You are, in effect, holding up a mirror of unconditional regard to reflect back a version of herself she cannot yet see. It is a long and arduous process, but by refusing to take the bait of criticism and instead responding with empathy, you slowly dismantle the very foundation of her protective shield. She will never hand you a syllabus, but you are constantly being tested. The avoidant woman, often without any conscious awareness, creates a labyrinth of invisible hurdles and secret trials to gauge the safety and durability of your love. This is not a manipulative game, it is a primal vetting process. Her core question is, are you real? Will you stay when it gets hard? Is your love sturdy enough to handle the truth of who I am? Because in her experience, love has been conditional, fleeting, or broken. So, she tests. She might create distance to see if you will panic and chase her, confirming her belief that your needs will overwhelm her. Or she might pull away to see if you will give up and leave, confirming her belief that everyone abandons her eventually. She might share a small, difficult part of her past to see if you flinch, judge, or try to fix her. She might pick a fight just before a moment of intimacy to subconsciously sabotage the connection and reclaim a sense of control. Every one of these actions is a test. The tragedy is that she is often setting you up to fail, recreating the very abandonment she fears, because that is the familiar outcome her psyche is wired to expect. To navigate this labyrinth, you must become a detective of the heart, looking not at the surface-level behavior, but at the meta-communication, the hidden plea beneath the action. The key to passing these tests is not to play the game according to her unspoken rules, but to change the game entirely. The answer is unwavering, consistent, non-anxious presence. When she creates distance, you respect it without disappearing yourself. You send a simple, low-pressure message thinking of you. No need to reply. This demonstrates that you are not threatened by her need for space, nor are you abandoning her because of it. When she picks a fight, you refuse to escalate. You de-escalate. You say, "My goal here is not to fight with you. My goal is to understand you." This shows that your commitment is to the connection, not to being right. When she shares a vulnerability, you receive it as a sacred gift. You listen, you validate, you empathize, you do not try to solve it. This proves you are a safe container for her complexity. Every time you respond with consistency instead of reactivity, with calm assurance instead of anxious pursuit or punitive withdrawal, you are sending a powerful message to her subconscious. I see your test, and I am not like the others. My love is not fragile. I am not going anywhere. You are, brick by brick, building a new reference point in her nervous system, a new experience of what love can be. It is through this relentless, patient consistency that the walls of the labyrinth begin to dissolve, not because she stopped testing, but because you have finally proven yourself trustworthy. Perhaps the greatest secret of the avoidant woman is this: she is not unfeeling. She is, in fact, a super feeler. Her emotional guard is not in place because she feels too little, but because she feels too much. She possesses a deep, often overwhelming capacity for empathy. She is a psychic sponge, absorbing the emotional energy, the unspoken anxieties, and the hidden pains of everyone around her. She feels the tension in a room the moment she walks in. She senses your disappointment before you even show it. She can be consumed by the sadness of a stranger. This empathic ability is not a gift. For her, it has been an abyss. Without the proper boundaries and internal scaffolding to process this tidal wave of external stimuli, her system becomes flooded. The world is too loud, too intense, too feeling. The emotional guard, the wall, the distance, these are not signs of a cold heart. They are the emergency protocols for a highly sensitive system on the brink of emotional overload. She withdraws to find silence. She creates distance to find the boundaries her psyche naturally lacks. She shuts down because it is the only way to stop the constant influx of feeling and finally hear the sound of her own soul. She isn't running from your emotions. She is running from the collective emotional field that she is helplessly entangled with. Understanding this transforms her from a cold person into a profoundly sensitive one who has been in a constant state of self-protection. The path to connection with her then is to become a clean, clear, and regulated emotional presence yourself. The more you can manage your own anxiety, the less you will trigger her empathic overwhelm. You must become a sanctuary of emotional simplicity and predictability. Speak your truth clearly and calmly, without drama or subtext. Your consistency becomes a lifeline for her. Furthermore, you can help her by honoring her need for quiet, for solitude, for spaces that are not emotionally charged. See her retreat not as a rejection, but as a necessary recalibration for a finely tuned instrument. When you can say, I can see you're feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to give you the space you need, and I'll be right here when you're back. You are speaking the language of her soul. You are acknowledging her deepest truth, that she feels deeply, and you are offering the one thing that can make that depth manageable, a safe, quiet harbor to return to. In that safety, her empathy can transform from a curse into the superpower it was always meant to be. She can become the most intuitive, understanding, and profoundly loving partner because she doesn't just hear your words, she feels your heart. But first, she must know that her own heart is safe with you. We began this journey by looking at a wall, a fortress built around a heart, and we asked what it truly reveals. We discovered that it does not reveal a lack of love, but a love so profound it had to be protected at all costs. We learned that the independence we often admire is a cry for help from a soul that learned too early that reliance leads to heartbreak. We now understand that the need for space is not a rejection, but a biological gasp for air from a nervous system drowning in the very intimacy it craves. We pulled back the curtain on the criticism and the secret tests, seeing them not as personal attacks, but as the desperate, flawed blueprints of a heart trying to vet for a safety it has never known. We saw the magnifying glass on your flaws as a mirror of her own deepest insecurities, and the invisible labyrinth as her tragic attempt to find a love that is sturdy, real, and unconditional. We have navigated the complex terrain of a soul that is not cold but is in fact too warm, too feeling, too empathic for a world that doesn't understand its depth. So let this be a transformation for everyone in the shadow of this dynamic. For the avoidant woman, may you see the incredible strength and sensitivity that you are, and may you find the courage, brick by brick, to dismantle the prison you built to keep yourself safe and step into the terrifying, magnificent freedom of vulnerable, connected love. And for the one who loves her, may you be armed with a new lens of compassion, patience, and understanding. May you see that your role is not to break down her walls, but to prove yourself so safe, so consistent, and so trustworthy that she feels empowered to open the gate herself. This is not about fixing someone who is broken. This is about understanding a different language of love. It is about realizing that the very behaviors that push us away are the exact behaviors that, when understood, can pull us into the deepest, most transformative connection we will ever know. The journey is arduous. It requires a mastery of self, but the reward is a love that has been tempered in the fires of fear and has emerged, not just intact, but unbreakable, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for having the courage to go on this journey today. Thank you for your willingness to see beyond the surface, to look with the eyes of your heart, and to choose understanding over judgment. This is where healing begins. This is where love gets its second chance. Go out and create the connections your soul has been yearning for. I believe in you. Now go and take action. Goodbye.